And Senator Dick Durbin also expressing his support for Emanuel today.
So joining us now with more insight on this hearing is Chicago Sun-Times Washington Bureau Chief Lynn Sweet. Lynn, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We saw Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon really the one kind of grilling him. No one else really grilled him today. How would you describe the former mayor's answers today to Merkley and to others?
Well, there were no other questions dealing with Laquan McDonald, except from Senator Merkley of Oregon, and his concerns were well known before the hearing, and the former mayor had already sat down with him, as you do with other senators. It's courtesy call, so there's no surprise here. You mentioned that beforehand, the chairman of the committee invited Rahm Emanuel to comment on Laquan McDonald when he noted it was the anniversary of the murder. So in all, this really was a hearing that had Laquan McDonald looming over it, but not overwhelmingly so. Some of it did, of course, have to do with foreign relations with Japan and China.
And when he talked about his time here as mayor and overseeing the McDonald case, he said he never really realized the level of mistrust between his office and Chicago's black community. How did he continue to frame that, and how did that go over?
Well, when you say how did it go, remember this, you wouldn't know. So let me bring you into the room very quickly. Because of COVID, there were not many people at this hearing, so there was no audience, there was no public. People were spread out, even very few reporters. I was in the room and one of a few. So you didn't get a vibe of a room at all. I think the remarkable thing was no Republicans even bothered to come except the chairman and Senator Hagerty, the former Japan ambassador who introduced him. What Rahm did, I think, is something he had said over the years, that he took responsibility for it. It was an emotional moment when he said not a day goes by that he doesn't think of the murder. But in terms of learning new information, we did not, about any of the circumstances revolving around the event that created the biggest stain against Emanuel during his 2 terms as mayor.
Yeah, as you say, he did express regrets, but didn't really say what he would have done differently.
No, and he wasn't pressed. This was not, as I say, it was only one senator that questioned him on it. And when the questionings were limited to 5 minutes, the chairman gave Senator Merkley an extra 4 minutes. He went through, you have devoted how many hours through these years on WGN, the Sun-Times, all the papers, all the outlets have devoted a lot to explanations here. So I think if you expected to cover any new ground in 9 minutes, that wasn't going to be the case. And Emanuel knew this was coming. He knew what he wanted to say. I think he understood that he had to he expressed remorse. It was not an explicit apology, but I think the quote you section out is the one that is striking, that even near the end of his first term as mayor, he still did not realize the level of mistrust between police and the black community. And that is something that he said very explicitly, and it resonates in the era of 2021, in this new age of racial reconciliation and in the post-George Floyd era.
Lynn, I have a question. I mean, is there anything that's more political than a former congressman, a presidential chief of staff, and a mayor getting appointed or trying to get appointed to an ambassador job? Is there anything more political than that? And why do you think Rahm Emanuel wants this job?
Well, actually, donors get appointed to as ambassadors all the time in Democratic and Republican administrations. That is some of the politics of how it goes in Washington, like it or not. That's just the reality. And if you ask how did he get the job, Rahm Emanuel is very close to President Biden and 3 of his top former aides, even though there was an attempt by the progressive community within the United States to prevent him from being appointed. They weren't able to achieve that. In the last few days, the Laquan McDonald issue did surface heavier and did inject itself in the hearing, partly because of the coincidence that the hearing was scheduled by coincidence on the 7th anniversary of the murder.
So, Lynn, do you think this is a done deal?
I do. Here's why. I can count no senators except Senator Merkley raised an objection. If he doesn't vote for him in committee, there's still plenty of support for his nomination to advance to the Senate. And by no Republicans coming, in this case, it meant that they had no issues to review with him. They didn't care that much. He has worked a long time on this nomination. He has a lot of cross-aisle ties, and I just don't see where he would not have the votes. If a few Democrats do drop off, you will have plenty of Republicans who will still support him.
All right, Lynn Sweet, Chicago Sun-Times. Be safe, be well. Appreciate it.